Oistas Vav. This is after Hakafis. The Frierdiker Rebbe was sitting down to the Seudah, Simchas Torah by night. And at the time of the Seudah, the Frierdiker Rebbe dipped, as the minhag is, dipped the challah in salt. Now on the table, there was also honey, kanohog, as was the custom. After eating the hamoitzi, doesn't seem like the Frierdiker Rebbe dipped it in the bash, but the Frierdiker Rebbe, after he said hamoitzi, he said, Shmini Atzeres and Simchas Torah, there's no need be'atzem for honey. Why? Because everything is already ready milamaila. There's no Indian for symbolic his oirus in lamaila. But when there's honey on the table, we should dip also in honey. Okay. Now says the Frierdiker Rebbe Ois Tezayin. In Torah is there Seder Oich Torah. The way Torah is organized, Smichusin, is also Torah, Melashon Hayra. It also has what to teach us. And says the Frierdiker Rebbe, therefore, being that it's also Torah, needs to be learned, it also is Hayra in our service of the Eibishter. So, in Pashas Pinchas, in which all the Yamim Tovim, the Eibishter told Moshe Rabbeinu to convey, so the last Yom Tif that's discussed in Torah is Shmini Atzeres. So Torah is a minhag, as the Ramah says. And there is the pasuk V'yemer Moshe Chal Shetziv V'yis Hashem, that Moshe Rabbeinu conveyed all that the Eibishter told him. Says the Frierdiker Rebbe, Yesh Loimer, that this pasuk is referring to Simchas Torah. This is where Moshe Rabbeinu gives over with the Eibishter the essence. Okay, after Simchas Torah, after this pasuk. So then comes in Parshas Pinchas, there's Nidarim, the dinim of vows and promises, and then afterwards there's a story of the battle against Midian. What does this order teach us in our Avodah Hashem? Says the Frierdiker Rebbe that after Shmini Atzeres, there's the Avodah of Nidarim. What is the Avodah of vows? So it says by Nidarim, Ish ki yider neder, a man that takes upon himself a vow. Not that when man is described, it doesn't refer to him as Adam, rather as Ish. Ish, we're going to see, refers to the emotional aspect of a person, as opposed to Adam, that's referring to the Seichel. That person has an intellectual. Says the Frierdiker Rebbe, by Negoim, which comes after, by Negoim, Negatzaras, there's the Torah of Adam. So it's Torah Adam. And by Nidarim, there's the Lashon of Ish. The Torah, the adjective of a person as Ish is referring to his midas, his emotional faculties. Because Nidarim Bechlal is an union of midas. He's curbing himself on an emotional level. He's setting himself limitations and boundaries. In Darkei Avodah, says the Frierdiker Rebbe, everything has to be in an orderly, organized fashion. And every Seder requires time. Each thing, till when will this go? To what degree? And it has to be as in all not only in the Ruchnistic Seder Avodah, but also in Gashmis. A person has to limit himself. This is the concept of Nidarim. He says, in Inyanim Gashmim, things that are not totally necessary, so then Lav Kaidim Lahain, the no should come before the yes. One should curb himself. And this is the Klal Ba'avodah, that in regards to all physicality, as much as possible, one has to refrain. Now the Seder from Midas is Melchemes Midian. The order of Midas, of curbing himself, is the battle of Midian. Midian means Midanim V'rivos Kedusha, the fight and battles and struggles of Kedusha, which means that even in Midas of Kedusha, they also have to have limitations. There has to be an order, organized. How to win the battle. And how do you win the battle? So he says, in regards to the Milchama of Midian, it says, Alef Lamata, 1,000 to this platoon. Mata can also mean staff. But he says, this Alef Lamata teach the Frierdiker Rebbe, Alef Lamata. What is Pshat? Alef is Alef Chachmas, refers to intellect. And Mata is Midas, because that's below the Seichel, below the Chachma. So Alef Lamata means the Hamshachas Moichin in Midas. So, to summarize, going back to where the Frierdiker Rebbe began, the order in Torah, after Shmini Atzeres, when one wants atzeres v'klita, to internalize all these yamim taivim. The way to do it is through nidarim, setting boundaries first in, he said, Batsim, it's an emotional level to curb himself, but then afterwards, Milchemes Midyan, even in Kedusha, to make sure that there's the seder is, how does he curb himself? After factually, like nidarim, curbing himself begashmias, to the lav kodim lahain in all gashmias regards, then in Ruchnis, the Milchemes Midyan and the Midas of Kedusha is that the Moichin, they dictate for the Midas. Says the Friedrich Rabbi, and the Friedrich Rabbi refers to the fact that he's mamish sprinkling over here in Nekudas. He says, does the inyan b'chlos, this is the inyan in its generality, that the Seder Avodah of Shmini Atzeres or Klita, to internalize, so B'chtei the Klita should be proper, it should be internalized properly, there should be a pregnancy and a easy birth, so to speak, of midos and of action. It's through Simchas Torah, the Simcha of the Makabel. He has to rejoice with what he has. And after that Simchas Torah comes the Seder of Nidarim, which is Midos, and then Milchemes Midyan, which, as we explained, as Friedrich Rabbi explains, Alef Lamata as the Chachma that guides the Midos. And says the Friedrich Rabbi, to understand the details, Al Pi Chassidus, this will require deeper biurim. Ois Yud Zayin. Says the Friedrich Rabbi, Simchas Torah and Ne'ilah, which is the final tefillah, the fifth tefillah of Yom Kippur, that they are Zayin and Zmanim Ka'elu. There are these types of times that are similar, they're similar not only in their inyan, but also that everybody's equal in these times. Taka each one kefim v'husin yanai. Everybody nemtis according to where his state, where he's at. But everyone's equal. They go into it, we're all in it together, and we're all equal. Simchas Torah and Ne'ilah is b'chinas gilu yechidah shebenefesh. It's revealing the highest of the fifth levels in one's soul, the yechidah. And the kavanah yechidah shebenefesh is, what that means is practically, is be'hisoirus. It's awakened. And all Yidden are besimcha, are Simchas Torah, they're oilul Torah. Once this is be'hisoirus, all Yidden are elevated on Simchas Torah through Torah. They're elevated through Torah. Ois Yud Ches. Friedrich is for bringing Simchas Torah by day, by the Kiddush and the Seudah, I guess between Shachris and Musaf, on the day of Simchas Torah. Says the Friedrich Rebbe, yesterday, Tmoil, Hiftachti l'saper ma'aseh, I committed and promised that I'm going to tell a story. And the Friedrich Rebbe said, don't ask me details in the story, I'm only going to share what I've been allowed to share. And my kavanah with sharing this is to express an inyan pnimi, a deep internal inyan. And the Friedrich Rebbe said that the chassid Reb Shalom Ber, Reb Shmuel Ber, Barisa Ber, his name was Reb Shmuel Ber Lipkin from the city of Barisov, in the year Tafresh Yud Dalet, this is during the Rabbi the Tzemach Tzedek's Nesias, he was Simchas Torah in Lubavitch. The house of the Tzemach Tzedek was in the place which afterwards became the big zal of Tomchei Tmimim. That's because the Tzemach Tzedek in his tzava, he directed that nobody from his children and his descendants should live in the place of his house. Rather, they should turn it into a place of Talmud Torah for children, for Tashbar or a Beis Medrash, and nothing else, even Dvarim Shebekdusha. So that became the grand zal of Tomchei Tmimim. So the Tzemach Tzedek, in the Chatzah there was another house in which in the Chatzah of the courtyard of Lubavitch, that was the Tzemach Tzedek's place. That's where the Zal of Tomchei Tmimim. The Rebbe Marash lived in a house on those grounds, a little farther. And the Chassid Hanal, Shmuel Ber, Barisa Ber, he fell asleep by the minyan that was near the room of the Tzemach Tzedek. Fell asleep near the door. All of a sudden he got up and he hears the Tzemach Tzedek going out of his room and out of his quarters. Seems like even leaving that house. And he went to the house of the Rebbe Marash. And he heard how Tzemach Tzedek tells the Rebbe Marash to come with him, because the Alter Rebbe promised him, Tzemach Tzedek, to learn with him a Mishnah in Masechta Sukkah, the way it's learned in Gan Eden HaTachton. they both, the Tzemach Tzedek and the Rebbe Marash, went into the Tzemach Tzedek's room, and he heard the beginning of the Mishnah and its explanation. Reb Shmuel Ber Bar Yisrael. The next day, the Tzemach Tzedek said to him, As men hert unter was men darf nicht, if you listen, so to speak, not legally, things you shouldn't have, chap men a snell. You get a snell, which is a flick. I think it's with a flick with the second finger, indicator finger. And Tzemach Tzedek continued and said, Kinder am haratzen, children that are am haaretz. The Chassid of Shmuel Ber didn't reveal this and didn't tell over the story throughout his entire life until he felt its mamish's final moments. Then he told us over to, says the Frierdiker Rebbe, to my father, to the Rebbe Rashab. Oisyotes. Someone came in by this Farbrengen, by the Kiddush, and the Rebbe, the Frierdiker Rebbe, said that his coming in is an expression, it's a revelation of the machshavas that I had, says the Frierdiker Rebbe. It's playing out what I thought. Today I thought a lot about him, and the Frierdiker Rebbe referred to him by his name and his mother's name, not by his last name or his nickname. Ois Chaf. They sang a niggin, and the niggin was not sung properly, slowly, and the Frierdiker Rebbe said such a story took place. Yutas Kistel Tafresh Samach Gimel, and the Tata said, the Rebbe Rashab said, that when they're in one place, they're invested in one inyan, and one hurries off and is rushing to a different inyan, that's like the concept in halacha that's brought echad b'peh, echad b'lev, which is if a person invites someone but he really knows that that person's not going to come, doesn't want him to come, and the like, and says, and you're not allowed to do that, as brought in Shulchan Aruch. So the Rebbe Rashab said, mi hitir, that who gave rishus for such a thing? So not allowed to rush from one inyan to the next. Okay. Ois Chaf Alef. The Frierdiker Rebbe spoke more about the concept of machshava, and now he's talking about the maila, the tremendous quality that machshava has, that it can help people and go beyond limitations of time and space and actively help someone else. So Frierdiker Rebbe says that machshava, one can be in two places in the same time. The second, that's one maila, and the second maila is the machshava. Even neshamis, they can be emissaries and saviors to help people begashmis, because generally, in terms of being sent min hashamayim, says the Frierdiker Rebbe, all the inyanim of shlichus for physical change in this world, the Eibishter does through malachim, through angels, and the shlichus of neshamis, us human beings that are infused with a neshama, our shlichusin are beneget to Torah and avodah. In parentheses, the Frierdiker Rebbe says an exception to this is Eliyahu Navi, that he was sent for both because he was a malach, kiyadua the inyanim. But the shlichus of atzalah sheb'machshava, if you're saving someone through thought, even a neshama, which means even a human being, can accomplish down here. I'll soon try to explain the connection between these oisius. Ois Chav Beis, says the Frierdiker Rebbe. It's written in Shir HaShirim, Perek Dal Pasuk Vav, V'noizlim min Levanon. It trickles down from Lebanon, from Lebanon. However, in Pnimis HaInyanim we know that this is referring to oir. It's a light that shines in from the highest parts of the Etzma Neshama. Levanon is the oisi, is a conjugation of two parts of the word, Lev and Nun. Lev, Lamed Beis, Nesivus Chachma, this refers to the Chachma Shavanafesh, and Nun is the Nun Shar, the 50 Shari Bina. That this is the Chachma Bina Shabe'etzma Nefesh, and you should know that it's Noizal Tamid. It continuously trickles in to the Ha'aras HaNeshama. It shines into the Neshama that is enclosed within the body. It means that part, the lowest part of the Neshama that's invested in the body. And says the Frierdiker Rebbe, to appreciate this, we have two explanations. Both are limitlessly tangible. The first one is the koyach hamaskil, the subconscious. It continuously is invested in the intellect and continuously thinks. Behind what this means is the koyach hamaskil is at work not only when one is conscious of it and cognizant and it's revealing itself and expressing itself in intellectual thoughts, rather it's always towards itself and internally, it's continuously revealed. How do we access it? Is through toiling hard with our clay seichel, our intellectual vessels in our mind, so we can connect with it. But it is continuously at work and continuously delving deeper and meditating. And then when we work hard, so it also reveals itself in the klei seichel and the seichel galui in a way that taka makes it even better, and it's aligned with the koiches of Chabad, Chachma B'Nedas. And the ikar is bisboinus, which is iyun, when a person meditates in a deep way. The second mashal that's given to understand this concept of the noizla min levanoi, says the Frierdiker Rebbe, is the koyach hatzameach, the power of sprouting and growth that exists in the earth. That it's always there in potential, and it's always ready to make things grow. It awaits the point when the kernel comes in, and when this kernel is planted and put into the ground, then it'll define what the koyach hatzameach is going to cause to sprout afterwards. Now these two mishalim, says I think this is the words of the Rebbe on the bottom. The Rebbe says seemingly this is a deep, sharp, but short, concise explanation on what the Frierdiker Rebbe brought earlier, that the machshava can be in two places in the same time. Now I'll give it some oisius of Havana. The way I understand it is that the machshava, because it's rooted in so high and so deep, betzim it exists everywhere. And when one connects with that level, then he draws it down. But it's not pshat. A person through his machshava is able to is able to transcend time and space. The machshava initially stands above time and space and is rooted in much higher and is continuously mashpia, and he is connecting back to a realm that he be'etzim is connected to, that's higher than time and space. And I want to point out that I think this is also part of the silver lining of this Farbrengen, where the Frierdiker Rebbe is explaining that our machshava is a very limited and low form of connecting to the Eibishter. Be'etzim, the pshitus stands far above it, and that's why the kli to avas Hashem is really what the Eibishter tells you to do is avas Yisrael, and many other inyanim that have been mentioned over here. Parenthetically, I hope I'm mechaber to the kavanah. Ois Chav Gimel, the Baal Shem Tov revealed, and what he revealed, his students, Rabbi Seinu Akdoshim, they explained and they made it even, they shichlalu, means they refined it and, so to speak, made it even better. That what is it? That it's in the ability of every yid, through dveikus, through cleaving to oisis hatayra vatfila. What can you accomplish through that? To take tzara, which is a tzara, which is a time of oppression and problems, and turn it into tzoyhar. Tzoyhar by the table is referred to as a window or a source of light. So through cleaving to oisis, the technical oisis of Torah and Tefillah, one can turn darkness into light. And again, this connects to what we started explaining earlier, that it's not the limud of Torah, not the havana of Torah, it's the essence of Torah, the pshitus of Torah. Ois Chav Daled, the Frierdiker Rebbe then said they should sing a niggun, and said that he referred to one person and asked him to guide and organize the seder of the niggun, like a malamed that directs and guides his students by pointing with his finger. And afterwards he said how the seder has to be with a chassidish malamed, because this person evidently was a malamed, one that the Frierdiker Rebbe indicated he should guide the singing. And he said chassidish malamed is there to bring light into houses. One has to make his home lichtig, full of light. And that takes place without the ribuch kiris and chachmas, not through being overly wise or delving deeper and trying to understand what one is not meant to dig and question. The Frierdiker Rebbe, the chiddush is not by you You're a malamed that teaches comments Alef A. By you, the pshitas is pashat, and the light should be simple. So the Rebbe, why is it simple by you? Because all tmimim, about all tmimim, my father, the Rebbe Rashab, said al kapayim chakoisich, that I engraved you on my palms, and you have bli ayin hara, a tremendous power and might to create light and illuminate by Yidden through the light of Torah and Mitzvah. The Frierdiker Rebbe said to that person, this Malamed, you're doch from Nevel. It's known, the story that took place in the time of the Mittler Rebbe, that when some 2 minyanim came from Nevel, these were Jungelite, newly married people that were still financially dependent on their parents or on their in-laws, their father-in-laws. They had the luxury of being Meirich B'Tfilah, of delving and stretching their davening for long, and then being Shoykit B'Limud, continuously learning, as explained in the letter about this. And then he said, the Mittler Rebbe said, Hallelu B'Nevel. The Pashta Taich in Tilim is that the Eibishter should be praised with a harp. But he said, the Mittler Rebbe Taich, Hallelu B'Nevel. The Eibishter is praised in Nevel, this shtat. And then Amur, the Rebbe Rashab, added, that is by me, I hold more precious. A Nevler Katzev, a butcher from Nevel, that was a simple person, that davened with heart, than a Kremenchuker maskil, than a scholar in Chassidus that would meditate in Kremenchuk. They were known, Kremenchuker Berlach. They were named on the name of the Mittler Rebbe. They had a lot of moichin, and they were very invested. That was their style of Avodah Hashem, as opposed to the simpler oivdim in Nevel. So the Nevel is Hallelu B'Nevel. Ois Chavhei. One person at this Farbrengen of the Frierdiker Rebbe, Simchas Torah, by the Kiddush, he asked, how should be the Seder of learning? Should it take place at home or in Barabim, in public, or shul? Frierdiker Rebbe said, for sure there has to be learning in public, in a shul, or in a place where the multitude gather. Even though learning at home has a tremendous maila in regards to how one leads and guides his house, his home, that the Nasias Panim, the way they look up to a man, a father at home, shouldn't just be because he's the breadwinner. He brings sustenance. He's the one that sustains and supports the family and gives all their needs. Ki'im, rather, they should look up to him because of much greater things. He stands in a much higher regard, which is the ruchnis to kinyanim. And this is all seemingly a reason why you should learn at home. They should be able to look up to his ruchnis, see him learning. Says the house has to know that you learn, and that you melikt, that you lay in inyanim of Torah and your Shemaim. That's where your mind is, and then you have a totally different chen, find favor, and are precious throughout the home. And this is the real shalom bayis, that's treasured and held in very precious regard, al pi Torah. And parenthetically, the Frierdiker Rebbe said, in the Indian of shalom bayis that we're discussing, sadly, says the Frierdiker Rebbe, to the pain of our heart, there are some mistakes that have to be corrected. We didn't go into detail, but imagine. However, despite all this, says the Frierdiker Rebbe, the learning has to take place in public, in shul. And he says, the eitzah to taka guiding one's home, if you're learning in shul and they don't see your learning, says the Frierdiker Rebbe, when you come home, you should tell over an inyan that you learned. So, meimer, a chazal, a maimer of Gemara, and the like. Ois chavav. Frierdiker Rebbe said, l'chaim, the Eibishter should grant that the mashke should go in the right way, and you should go, all those listening should go in the right path as well. Each word that's been said can be explained in a few oifanim, and then there is derech hayasher. It means everything can be dreid when it's a scholastic game. But there's the straight path, the pashtus, and that path doesn't just go straight, it goes upward. Hecher and hecher, be'ilu acher ilu, one elevation upon another, in physical realms as well as spiritual. Ois chav zayin. One person asked by the Farbrengen, the fact that we're discussing avodah shebelev, the person serves the Eibishter with his heart, davening, How could this take place by Baalei Asakim? People that they're invested in business and they're busy, they're tarut, they're bothered by all the dealings that they're busy with. So the Frierdiker Rebbe said, as explained in the Kontreisen that discuss Avodah Shabalev, this is say from my mom Kontreisen, I believe, that L'chura, this is Shaykh to Yoshve Oyel, that are able to spend the time properly for service of the Eibishter. But Baalei Asakim, was their tug is when farnumen, that throughout the day they're busy with so many things. How should this be? How could this take place? The Frierdiker Rebbe responded, Nisbar Lo'il, I explained earlier that the Alter Rebbe said to Rabbi Yeshua Tzeitlin, the elder Vetter of Rabbi Nechemia and Dubrovna, and that was from those three that were sent by the Kehillah and Shklov to argue with the Alter Rebbe about Chassidus. The Alter Rebbe told him that the Chiddush of Chassidus in Kviyas, in Torah, is that it's a Kviyas B'nefesh. A Chassidus, and now here the Frierdiker Rebbe Mamash spells it out in the most powerful way. He says a Chassidus Bal Asik has to be, what's a Chassidus businessman? A person that he runs his life and his frame of mind, his approach to life, his world on Shalom is like a Edom of Kest, like a son-in-law that's being supported by his father-in-law. He says, V'mezayv Kest, when a person is being sponsored that way by his father, by his shver, he doesn't need to daige about anything. Now, as the shver hyped on zu geben zu verstehen, as the fide matzah darf in epestan in Geschäft, so when his shver starts pushing him, that due to the circumstance, I need your help, you have to do something for me in the business, so Yemelt hyped sich on sich mission, he picks himself up without draying, and without getting too involved, he helps a little bit. Nor as it start of cast, even over there, he's sitting as if this is not his business. He's still being sponsored. This is not what's giving him sustenance. Esther, first he eats, and it trinked up for you. He finishes drinking, and then only afterwards he goes to the business to help his shver. That's not his. He says the Frierdiker Rebbe, this is the style of a Chassidus Bal Asik. That's how he has to be invested in his Gashmis. Was essen und trinken is beruchnias Vesmen. He says what it means. First you have to eat and drink. He says in the spiritual realm, this is referring to Torah and Avodah. First, deal with what's really important. You eat and you drink Torah and Avodah. And then when you invest in Gashmis, it's only because you're pushed into it, and you do it as if you're supported regardless. Your shver is taking care of it. It says, Vashem is Baruch Yiteh, the Eibusher should grant Parnasa Toiva, good sustenance for Klal Anash, all Anash, throughout, and B'soich Kol Achenu B'nei Yisrael, between all Yidden, that they should be able to taka, their mind should be available to serve the Eibusher with Torah and Avodah. Praise Hashem.